Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Captain's Table. I am your host, Captain B-Nard, and topic of discussion today is going to be The Flash, a complete review of and reaction to the brand new movie, as well as speculation toward the future of the DCU. And here to discuss that with me, making his long-awaited return back by popular demand or something like that, appearing for the 15th time on the Captain's Table, we have the DC superfan and comic guru himself, Mitchelonius. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, bro. Good to have you back.
Huh.
It has been quite some time.
Uh, has everyone else been breathing in this great Canadian air?
Oh yeah, that's been
Huh.
it's almost like it's on fire if you know what I mean. Wink wink.
Yeah, listen,
Thumbnail
listen, the air's
thumbnail.
hot, bro. Yeah, you know.
Well, in any event, yeah, that has been a hell of a thing. Those Canadian wildfires depreciating our air quality and such. But
It's
um,
almost like when the Flash runs really too fast prior to his outfit, and
yes, when he burns his
everything
clothes
ignites
off.
on fire.
Exactly.
Yes, that like someone watched the Flash movie and was like, "Hey, I could do this," and then like forest in Canada.
Well, the only
They
problem
got
with that theory
well,
is
no, no, no. Hear me, because what you're gonna say, but hear me on this. They got what are an advanced review what the
they got
showing
they got
prior
this.
to the release. They
Okay,
they they have one of them going on. You know what I mean? So they
maybe.
had like a private viewing, and they were like, "Oh, this is awesome," and then they were so rich, you know. They did what they did, and they were like, "I'm gonna do this," and then they ran really fast, and then tried to get struck by lightning and missed, and it struck the woods. Right? They're like, "Oh fuck!" And then they ran away, and that's
uh,
the only fast they were, just running in the other direction, and then like no one knows what happened.
Maybe, dude. I don't know, but that's a one hell of a tangent to get us started. But a funny one
Hey,
nonetheless. So, but yeah,
I agree.
obviously we're going to be talking about the new Flash movie here today. We both saw it together, actually, and so we're going to give our not so expert opinions on said movie and talk a little bit about the future of the DC EU, which is kind of in a weird spot right now, as it normally is, but for different reasons, which we'll get into. So, are you ready?
Yes, I am. And by now, are we reputable or unreputable sources? Take it as it is.
Yes, I was gonna say you be the judge. Are we
Believe
reputable
what you want to
sources?
believe.
Exactly.
Believe what you want to believe. That's the world we live in today. Whatever your truth is.
Fair enough. So, um, we'll start off by going through the movie. We'll kind of touch on the big points or the big plot points, I should say, of the movie, and kind of talk about them if we liked them or didn't like them. If it was comic accurate, I know that's a big thing for you, because obviously this is based on the Flashpoint comic book. Although there are some obviously pretty big differences, which you will fill us in on as we go. Um, but so
Well, I want to.
yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm having some audio. I'd also want to add not only from the movie and the comics, but there's also a animated Flashpoint movie
Is there?
as well. Uh, yes, very well done. It's called, Flashpoint, pretty simple, uh,
Yes.
which portrays the comic, and it does kind of give it its own little twist as well. Still stays much truer to the source material, what the movie did, but
Gotcha.
proceed.
Okay, fair enough. I have not seen that. Maybe I'll check it out at some point. Um, but yeah, so we kind of open up with a pretty vintage, pretty standard superhero opening. With the superhero has to save the day from some not like massive threat, but they have to do something heroic. That's a pretty standard way to open it, and like a minor fight, you would say. Um, yeah, I mean, he's on his way to work and he wants to get his weird sandwich, but the guy just won't make it for him. He's not fast enough. Haha, get it? Um,
Spoiler alert.
So, yeah, but he goes and saves a hospital full of babies and whatnot because Batman decided to apparently blow it up without any regard for the human life
That
inside.
scene was I don't even know how necessary it was, to be quite honest. Like I feel like it all right. So the moviegoer in me was like fascinated, amazed by the special effects were on point.
Oh
This
yeah,
like
absolutely.
the humor was there. Everything was hitting its cues,
Yes.
But now the comic, this is the most unnecessary scene in
Yes.
any movie. Really has a specific focal point.
Yeah.
Like this to just in that scene where I'm like the janitor, the cleanup crew for the
Yes. The Justice
you know
League's
that was
janitor.
that was the premise that he tried to. Oh,
Right.
I'm just here to clean up Batman's messes,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So even when consulting Batman himself, I'm
Yeah.
not going to go that far, but all that aside, with him feeling that way,
Yeah.
that didn't need to be explained because that was never a thing nor a reason why the Flashpoint
It
paradox
had nothing to do with it.
was
Yeah.
created at all.
No,
So
yeah, of
as
course.
we continue down the line of what continues this
Of
great
course.
moment,
Yeah, so but I mean, I like aside from that, like aside from the unnecessary nature of it, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was well done, special effects, action, whatever. And then you get the Wonder Woman cameo too, which is all right. It's good to see that Gal Gadot's still there. He got to. I think what they have to do now with all these DC movies is they have to like show you the actor to make sure they haven't been fired yet. You know.
yeah. It's really great. It's really great that you bring that up because that sparks something in me. That sparks up that I really appreciate how the movies and show the actors that don't fucking matter. So the thing is this: Aquaman, side hero.
You're
He
jumping to the end credit scene, man.
Jason Momoa, great, awesome. Listen, it was a great movie.
Yeah,
No problem with it. He does a great job. My thing is this: he's still a Wonder Woman.
yeah,
Great movies, with the exception of '84 to some degrees. But
yeah,
still, but aside, this Flash movie, again, aside, Shazam, again, can be considered a hero in his own right, but also aside, my whole point of saying all this,
yeah.
the two main heroes, this would be like having Iron Man and Captain America,
Mhm.
okay, constantly being different fucking people
Yep.
and constantly having bad movies
Yeah.
and constantly not being able to meet, which is your Superman and your Batman dynamic.
Yes.
And then you have between, like, these heroes are what make DC.
Of
So the
course.
fact now that you have these heroes, and so many have played another, but more so the other, which
Yes.
we all know is Batman.
Of course.
If this series, if what happens in this movie, which we'll discuss, doesn't the potential
Yes.
of a stable
A stable
hero
DCEU. That's
dynamic,
all. That's all we're really looking
which,
for is a
yeah,
stable
yeah.
DCU. That's it. And
I mean, you can't really have a solid movie structure like series without the two main heroes
well,
being
yeah,
like
Batman and Superman are the
having continuity with
pillars.
each other. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I mean,
like
Batman and
you
Superman
can't
are
have your two main.
undeniably the pillars of DC, obviously. But
Yeah, exactly. So and like I said, a Shazam, Black Adam, and uh
Flash, Wonder
Superman
Woman,
movie.
Aquaman, they're all good heroes in
Well,
their own
but
right.
no, but what I'm saying is a Shazam, Black Adam movie would be great,
Oh
but what
yeah,
would make it better
what's
if
that?
you added Superman.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you get my point? But you
Yes.
can't do that.
Well, maybe
Why?
we're gonna get to that at the end because maybe
But
that will
but
be in the cards
but
in
you
the
get my
future.
point. With
Oh yeah,
Marvel, you can mesh and mix and do all
streamline.
these.
It's more streamlined. It's more
Uh
consistent. You
it's
know.
it's it's
And
incredible.
I'll tell you
But
what,
what
like,
they, I feel with this movie though, and I'll let you get your point out. I'm
sure,
sorry. I feel like what they did with this movie though, get to is they really emphasized that kind of us that they so-called created, which I'm sure you'll get to with the whole, kitchen scene. But
yeah,
you know, I feel
yeah,
like right there is kind of where they explained what the universe is, if you get what I'm getting at.
yeah, yeah. Of course. And so I like, I know I'm jumping ahead of like to my overall opinion, kind of, but since we're on the subject, um, I actually really liked this movie, and I thought it was very good through, well done through and through. Yes, there were some problems and some inconsistencies, but that's to be expected with any movie or TV show. Um, but all in all, I thought everything was, relatively well done, pretty well done, I should say. And it's, yeah, there were some big differences from the comic book, but again, some of that is to be expected, I think, and for obvious reasons. There's some things were changed for very obvious reasons, of course. Um, but yeah, no, I think that it's overall, I think it is kind of a shame that like every time it seems like DC is starting to get its act together, something happens that kind of like throws it off the rails again. You know what I mean? And we're gonna
And that's why that was also the kind of the amp up. That was also kind of
the tee
the
up. Yes,
the hope that
that this movie
this
would be
movie would
different.
kind of somehow correct
Yes, I agree
all
with
the
you
wrong that has been
100%.
done. You
I
know,
agree with you 100%. That's so
that was
so.
that was the anticipation. I'm sorry, that was what I was looking
Yes,
for. That was a part of the anticipation of this movie.
absolutely. Yes, 100%. And so I do. Although I will say, feeding you actually mentioned the humor, which is kind of on full display in the beginning moments of the movie here. And I have to say, I do think this movie actually did do humor very well, all in all, which was one of the things I liked about it, and one of the things that I think the DCEU movies have been lacking in for the most part. Like, yeah, you had Shazam, which is goofy, but that's just because Shazam is kind of a goofy character by nature. But like, and I think we've talked about this before, but it is hard with a lot of these characters and stories. It can be hard to infuse the humor into them because a lot of the characters have like darker or more tragic like stories overall, which makes it more difficult to inject the humor. But I think this actually did a very good job. Like going back to what we're talking about with the beginning scene in the fight, like obviously the whole ridiculousness of like saving all the babies in midair and like while he's like heating up the microwave and eating the snack and all that kind of stuff, and then obviously chasing down the bad guys, and then like him and Affleck's Fat Man get roped up in the lasso of truth, and they redo that gag when Aquaman was sitting on it from the Justice League and all that kind of stuff. So I think that most of that stuff really and even like the banner between Batman and the Flash, like I do think that they hit with pretty much all that stuff, and I was pleasantly surprised actually that, like I said, humor is something that the DCEU movies have really been lacking in my opinion, or at least good humor, because sometimes they've tried to do humor in certain situations and it's just kind of fallen flat. You know what I mean? Like in the Suicide Squad, for example, which that whole movie kind of fell flat, but it is what it is. Um, but
Not the James Gunn edition, but
no,
go
not
ahead.
that one. I'm talking about the original. And like a lot of the like the mid 2010s DC movies were pretty bad. And
Let's just not talk about any movie that had Jared Leto in it.
well, we don't need to talk about that right now. That's irrelevant. But you know what I mean. So
Okay.
so but I'm saying that in the sense of giving this movie
Well,
credit that
I hear what you're saying. What I
yes.
I feel like this movie, the director, they were or weren't, the writers, whether they were or weren't, I feel like they definitely took pages from the Shazam uh, direction as far as the humor goes with
Yeah.
the specific hero. Because a lot of the humor that was with the Flash was him not initially really knowing how to control to its full potential.
Of course, yeah, we got a lot of that. Yeah, in a little bit later in the movie, yeah, we get into that um, aspect of it. Which, yeah, that was again, I think that was pretty well done actually. The way they integrated the humor
But
there.
that's
So
why that's why I say I think they're getting more of that. But I still will say you'll never see like a Batman movie, just like a straight up Batman movie where they're like there's this like humor in like
yeah.
an Iron Man or a Captain America
Well, nor
movie or
should you
like
because that doesn't really
like
fit the character. You know,
that's what I'm saying. Like with DC it's more difficult, but I do appreciate the fact that they can get away with that with like
with certain
if they ever do
heroes,
like well if they ever do like a green or if they ever do like a Hal Jordan Green Lantern that isn't
isn't awful.
the one that the one that I have erased in my mind from existence after um
The early and mid 2010s involved a lot of erasing movies. If you're
yeah
a DC fan, I
yeah
guess.
that one's
It's like when
canceled.
was there a Green
It's
Lantern? Batman versus
listen,
Superman, Justice
yeah,
League,
it was offensive.
original cut,
I,
Original Suicide Squad. What are you talking about? I've
I
never heard of any of these movies.
it was highly offensive, so therefore canceled. So, but my
Yes,
point is, but you get what I'm saying. So
absolutely.
I do like how they kind of take the humor and kind of the trajectory of the hero,
Of
for with
course,
Shazam, it was like lightning hands, lightning from
Captain
my hands.
Sparkle
Like he was
Fingers.
doing just yes, Captain Sparkle Finger and like testing out his powers and stuff. Like
Yeah,
the fact that they incorporated the fact that Billy Batson was actually a kid and that like
acted like
they
one.
like took
Yeah,
an adult and stuff like that. And then, with in the same way that they do with Spider-Man with having a mouth, in the same way that with Tony Stark. And then you
of
have
course.
now the Flash so runs his mouth
Yeah,
and
so well done.
not to a severe degree but well done on their part but I definitely feel like they took a page out of the Shazam is and I feel like they're going to continue on with that
I would
with
hope so.
certain here what I mean
Again, this is
just because of the like if when we talk about the end credit scene.
yeah, yeah. I think what I was gonna say was, nope, we might have lost him there. You there, buddy? Yeah, I think he's there.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you cut out for a sec, but it's all good. What I was gonna say was, and I know this is jumping ahead a little bit, but I think if I think DC will actually be okay in the future if they replicate, like, not like shot for shot, but like they replicate the writing and the directing and the ideas behind what fueled this movie. Like if they can do that again, I think they're actually going to be in pretty good shape. Um,
Yeah,
so
but that's what I was saying that if they can with the
if
heroes that they can do that with.
exactly, yeah, it's a tricky thing. They have to play it carefully, of course. But so yeah, but moving on from that, then obviously after that whole initial thing is passed, we get into more of him with the story of him and how his mom died, and his dad in jail for apparently killing his mom, which he didn't do. And then somehow he just starts running and running and running, and he
And
realizes,
for anyone who's listening to this podcast and doesn't know that
yes,
that's the premise and origin of the Flash,
yes.
please do yourself a favor and stop listening right now.
No, stop. I only got like 20 viewers as is. You can't tell them to tune out. What are you doing?
Well, listen, I'm not sitting here wasting my breath. Something viewers
Yeah.
watch the movie, enjoy some
Yes.
Flash
Yeah. No. And so
promo.
yeah.
Sponsor us.
Yes.
All right.
If I ever get a
Donations
Patreon,
accepted in the comment.
there you go. Yes. Just
Donations accepted in the.
I'll put my Discord server in the comments, and then you can DM me your credit card number if you want. It's all good.
Don't worry, guys. He's really fair. He only 0.25% of
Yes.
anything that you know. So it's very fair. It's very
I won't
fair.
drain your whole bank account. I promise. But
All right.
anyway.
No, no, We'll leave you with 0.25%.
Yes. So, but yeah, so but but to make a long story short, so essentially, so his mom basically when he's a kid, his mom there's somebody that breaks in. His dad goes to the store to get tomatoes, paste or whatever, and his mom, gets killed. Somebody breaks in, kills her, and runs away real fast. And she is dead, and his dad gets home just in time to miss the guy, and he's framed for killing her, and he goes to jail for life. So he somehow like
which is already, which is accurate, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was like when they were showing that I was like this I'm not the biggest Flash aficionado, but like I am pretty sure it didn't happen that way. But anyway, so um
So to cut take to this particular moment where
mm,
they had to, I guess, make the change for the movie for what you're gonna say
to make
next
sense.
Vash, I'm presuming,
Right.
is that get anything. What happened was the Reverse Flash zoomed in while the Flash was a child.
Mhm.
He wasn't even an adult yet, so that's why
Right.
I don't understand why he's 18
Yeah.
when evidently she dies. So it's his birth,
No, I think he's like
and
no, I think he's
his
like 12 or
father was
something.
working.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And his father was working and he would be home after school,
Right.
and his mother was home and he was making a cake.
Right.
Now, Billy was, or not Billy, Barry was always known for being late to things, always too
Yes.
slow.
Of course.
Irony there, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, so, and he was running home, and when he got home, his mother was dead.
Mhm.
Birthday cake was there. She had completed it. Her blood was on. The knife that was going to be used to cut his cake was in her, and his father was in her body. To which then the police came, and his father kept saying when they were away was that there was this yellow and red blur,
Yep.
and then she fell over. Like he kept saying, just she was a second. There was this blur, and next thing you know, there's this knife in her chest, and like
And
she's in the.
yes.
And they were like, whatever, we hear this all the time. And then they
Right.
scooted him off to jail. And
Exactly.
Barry, in his heart, knew that his father could, like, even they even got it wrong in the TV show,
Yeah.
because they had, quote unquote, witness it. In the comics, he never actually witnessed it. He came home to it,
Right. And
but
I can
continue, sorry.
understand why they would tweak that just because it makes it more dramatic or whatever, like the him being there versus him not
That's
being
what I
there.
would think, yeah.
But I agree with you. Yeah, cuz I know, it's and they would later come to find that it was the Reverse Flash who kills his mom, but like so obviously they're going a complete different direction with this cuz like we never even find out anything about like who the unnamed assailant is who kills his mom, but I guess it doesn't matter apparently. Um but yeah, so he after he like relives all that for our viewing pleasure, I guess. Then he goes ahead and realizes that he can turn back time. So yeah, as although he already knew, to be fair, that he could turn back time slightly, but I guess he started running so fast that now he realizes that he can turn back time like way way back. Which is
Well, remember, he got angry. That's what
yes,
happened. He got really mad.
yes, and then he turned green and turned into the Hulk. Oh, wrong,
No, no.
wrong franchise. No, sorry,
Remember, and
wrong,
he just
wrong
started running.
universe. Yes.
Yeah, he got really mad.
Mhm.
For the life of me at the moment, I can't remember about what, but I know he got mad. If you remember, please say. But
Yeah.
I remember he got mad about the cases, something about his work with the caseloads. His
Yes.
boss got some shit,
Yeah. His boss is
and
just riding his ass.
he was like, we got to get it right. We got to get someone innocent's going to go to jail.
Hmm.
She's like, stop caring so much, and because it's such a
Oh yeah, he
thing to
has.
his,
Yeah, he has that conversation with his with this chick that he's trying to nail, and she yeah, and yeah, he talks it out in front of her because that's always what the smartest heroes do is reveal everything to people that they barely know.
No, no, I'm talking about
When he was at work, yeah, no, I know, I know, I know.
I'm talking about when his boss got on his shit,
Yes, yes, yes.
and then he got and then he ran and he started running and then he ran so fast that he got like in that orb shit he's in
Yeah, he
where
got
like if
the
you
Speed
it's
Force,
like
right?
he yeah like he's in the Speed Force. He runs whichever direction it's gonna put him in that point in time,
Exactly. So
and then
he
he
obviously,
realizes that back to his own time,
of
and
course,
then
he
has a
obviously
conversation
realizes he can.
with
Yeah,
Batman.
he obviously realizes he can now go back as far as he wants and fuck with the timeline, which of course Batman tells him not to because dire consequences if even the small the butterfly effect if even the smallest thing is changed in the past it can affect the future.
No, he even says that like the butterfly effect.
Exactly. So being the genius that the Flash is, he decides to do it anyway. So, but he does actually.
The funny part about that is that he is a genius.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it was so
That's a
ironic. But
that's a part of his superpowers.
yes, apparently he's not. Never mind. He's a genius, but apparently he's not smart enough to realize what movies told him. But anyway, so he goes back there, and I mean, in his defense, I will say he kind of figures out like a clever way around it. He's like, well, I can't interact with anybody, but I can like move some shit around to make it so he never left, which makes it so she wasn't alone, which makes it so she wouldn't have died. Even though I have to say this is actually kind of an inconsistency right here that I'm just realizing is like, okay, so the idea was that on that day this robber breaks into their house and knifes her and kills her, right? In the movie that was what happened basically, and nobody ever saw this person, right? So
No,
but here's the thing is like,
that's not what they did in the movie.
you know what I mean.
Well, no, but it wasn't a robber. They didn't elaborate that at all.
Right, okay,
That
well I
that's
was just
that's
padding it.
that if it was a robber, then they wouldn't have arrested the father.
Right, so basically the idea was that somebody busted into the house and killed her and left, right?
No,
What do
no,
you mean
no.
no?
If that's what the police
No, that's not what
thought,
I'm not
then they
talking about
wouldn't.
what the police thought. I'm talking about like the idea of what he knew to be true, not what the police knew. What the Flash Barry knew to be true was that on that
Oh,
day somebody busted into his house, killed his mom, and no one knows who it is.
yeah, and that's another fucked up thing because he knew about the Reverse Flash when this happened too. But
Supposed to, but
so
there is
go
no
ahead.
Reverse Flash in this
Yeah,
movie. But anyway, they I guess they
apparently.
beat.
But I think depending on how well this movie does, I think they will allude to that at some point.
Well, I
That's
mean,
why
didn't they
I
cover
still
the Reverse
recommend it.
Flash at nauseum in the Flash TV show too? So they probably didn't want to go that road again. Um, but yeah, but my point is, here's kind of an inconsistency that I thought of. So like, okay, if he changes the past, right? So his thinking was like, oh, I'll change it so so his dad's there this time versus his dad's not there. So hypothetically, that doesn't change that someone still broke into the house and killed his mom, right? So the only difference now is that his dad's home. So like, what's to say the guy still doesn't break in and then just kill both of them? You know what I mean? Like, like what the and when he goes like when he does make that change and go into the future, like there's no, it's like the suggestion is because his dad never left, like this murderer never came into the house. He just went to the next house over and murdered some other woman who was alone in her house. You know what I mean? Like it. So I feel like that's kind of a weird.
Which only further alludes to the fact that it would have to be you know someone really really fast.
Yeah, I know. Who I wonder. Too bad we don't know of anyone else who's really fast in this universe. Um, but anyway,
I
so
mean, aim.
yes, um, so he decides that like I said, he thinks of a kind of a clever way around it. Like, oh, I don't interact with anybody. I just move this there and do that, and it fixes everything. So he does that, and of course, it fixes the one thing that he wanted it to fix. But as always with time travel movies, it fucks everything else up, obviously. So then obviously, he goes back, he gets like knocked out of the Speed Force by what we would later come to find was just another paradox version of himself, essentially. Um, but and it was obviously when it happened, it was obvious that's what it was going to be, even though they didn't outright say it until later. But yeah, he gets knocked out into an alternate timeline where his mom never got killed, and he comes out to find like a younger version of himself, and then he does the one thing that everybody tells you in every time travel show and movie that you're not supposed to do, which is like talk to your past self, because that's like the
Yeah.
one rule that you're never supposed to break. But of course, that's like
Supposed to like make your mind melt.
yeah, that's like the second thing he does is do that. So, but yeah, so then he
Well,
he
to his credit, he does try to cover his face.
that was a pretty again for a genius. He doesn't seem very smart for a genius, I have to say.
Well, all right. So to elaborate on that, it's not that he's a genius; it's that he has the ability to think fast as the speed of light.
Of course, because
So,
yeah,
like Doctor Strange, how he can like sit there and then like see all the outcomes of
yes,
whatever. The Flash can look at any like situation
and he can
and
see like all the possible actually it's
same
funny.
thing,
I'm
right?
glad you
Like,
brought Doctor Strange up because we're going to come back to that later, the 14 million fates playing out before our very eyes, which I
yeah,
thought was
yes,
interesting.
exactly.
But yeah, so then he comes to the realization after talking with himself. He comes to the realization that like this is the day he's supposed to get his powers. So he has to like he make sure that his like different timeline self goes and gets in the accident and gets his powers so that he still exists, or so he thinks. Which obviously this is I know you are chomping at the bit to bring up the big difference right off the cuff in this situation, which is of course the fact that um, there's two hymns obviously there at the same time, like a younger him and an older him, versus there was only ever one hymn in the actual source material.
Yeah, see, what had actually happened was he ran, created the Flashpoint,
Hmm.
right? But instead of like, it's not like he stayed. Okay, he didn't stay in a. He created another time. So
Right.
when he went in time, prevented his mother's death.
Yes.
That's all he did. He
Yes.
didn't stay there. He didn't talk to anyone. He didn't come run into himself.
Yes.
Be, None of that was conceived. He ran back to his timeline.
Yes.
Nothing pushed him out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So he he ran back in time, saved his mother,
Yes.
ran back to his time, and
Yes.
everything was different.
Yes.
And it was Apocalypse Now.
Yes.
And you want me to get in the specifics of the differences? You have Batman, who was Thomas Wayne, who was
Yes.
Bruce Wayne's father,
Yes.
um, and Martha Wayne, who becomes the Joker
Yes.
because in the uh, instead of the parents dying, the son dies, and the
Yes.
father seeks vengeance. The mother holds
Goes crazy.
and like Martha kind of puts her face in him and he's bleeding and then starts like crying and those tears turn into laughter and then she looks up and she's got the Joker's smile and the crazy look and the red
Yeah.
lips and
So
the
very
father
yes.
and he's the version of Batman who uses guns. Then
Yes.
you have was involved. I mean, you have Aquaman, you have Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
and in major parts, there was a war between Atlantis, the what they would call the mainlanders. Like
Yeah.
there was this war
Yeah.
between these two entities
So
going
obviously a much
on.
right. So obviously a much more in-depth, different yet in-depth storyline that they weren't going to have time to go into in a movie here. But
Well, yeah, they didn't do any of what was in the comic
I think
book.
it would have
Like,
been actually now that you're bringing that up, I have to say probably would have been cool. Although they would never do this because it would cost too much money to get everybody, I'm sure.
well,
But
there were snidbits
no, but I mean
he
like they
drew on
could
the
have
paper
made
to
that
like
like
get
a
his powers and stuff like that.
right,
That
but
was in there. Like there were
right, but
snid.
they could have made like they could have made like almost like a TV show out of that if they wanted to. Like they could have
My
had
gosh, that's the only place DC strives.
yeah. So Um,
Honestly, I mean,
yeah,
that really
no,
is the only place.
yeah.
Animated movies and
But I'm talking they could have
but
even
this
made it
movie,
like a live action, like like a HBO Max show that if they wanted to cover that
oh, for
ground.
sure,
Um, but
for
yeah,
sure. They could have
so
even put it on that universe streaming service where they have Titans or whatever.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, so I mean, obviously it's way different. Like the alternate timeline or whatever you want to call it that he creates by saving his mom's life in the comic is obviously vastly different. Now obviously some of those, like, I understand why they didn't, because obviously they wouldn't want to, like, they wanted to keep it more focused on him, but also with like the Batman tie-in. I think obviously we all know why they didn't go they didn't like do the Thomas Wayne Batman, because obviously they just needed an excuse to have Michael Keaton come back as Batman, which no complaints here, because he is the best Batman. Um, but
Well, I don't think anyone was thinking about Michael Keaton being Batman. I mean,
not at all.
he the other actors who played Batman, Michael
Yes,
Keaton,
he is number one.
Christian Bale aside, because well, you can't now technically
No, no,
see
no.
this
We
this is
we
a weird
litigated we litigated the Batman actor
this
thing
is a
last
weird
time.
place for me though.
We don't
Yeah,
need
this is a
to.
weird place for
We don't
me.
need to talk about that again. But I will tell you, like, I've told you before, and I will tell you again. I have to say, objectively speaking, like,
He is
I
the
will.
premier.
Yes, I will always say that Michael Keaton is the best Batman, objectively speaking. In my personal opinion, I think it's very close between him and Christian Bale, although I would put them probably about tied, like, just based on my personal opinion, because I really like the Nolan trilogy, obviously, as most people do. But I would I would definitely, I would never put Christian Bale above Michael Keaton as Batman. Like, I would either put him tied or a little bit below. Um, but and obviously objectively, I would put Keaton above him. But as I think probably a lot of people would, also. But yeah, no, having him come back was obviously a big selling point of this movie, was having him come back as Batman. So obviously they couldn't really do that if they were gonna.
Point. Only point.
Yeah, so they were, well, yeah, we're gonna talk about Ezra Miller later too. Don't worry about that. Um, but yeah, obviously they couldn't do the Thomas Wayne version of Batman if they, and still have the Michael Keaton Batman. So, but yeah, so he replicates the accident, and then he, like, that's obviously with there being two of him. It's like the younger, stupider him gets the powers, and the one version of him that actually knows what to do doesn't have power, which leads to some, some humor. And like we had mentioned before, he's like runs around and burns his clothes off, sets Canada on fire, probably. Who knows? And he has funny moments and all that, and then they waste like 5-ish minutes of our lives with like his roommates, who are all like, really, really
Yeah,
stupid. Yeah, like stereotypical stupid
yeah,
college
man.
kids. uh
So,
so but yeah, we go through all
uh,
that, and then,
they were on that dumb shit, bro.
oh yeah,
Who's this guy? Who's that person? Who's that
they were
person?
all
Were they all?
irrelevant. It doesn't matter. They were all irrelevant. They were
Uh,
there to create some humor before we find out that Zod's here to destroy the world again. And there's yeah, and then yeah, and then he finds out again, obviously massively different from the comic, but in the movie, the what they call the metahumans or whatever, they don't exist. Like, super powered people don't exist somehow now in the world, because, and it's funny how, like, it all hinges on whether his mom died or not. But anyway, but yeah, they don't exist. But they
butterfly effect, bro.
Yes, but they do find out, as we had alluded to, that one person still does exist, and that person is
But here's the
Batman.
thing. But here's the thing. That's also only in this movie, is in the comics and in the animated
Yeah.
movie of the comic. There were people with powers.
Well, no, I know. Yeah, we had talked about that a second ago, but yeah, you're
The
right.
only thing there wasn't was a suit.
A Superman, right? So, but
What's that? You broke up.
oh yeah, you said the only thing there wasn't was a what now?
A Superman.
Superman. Yes. So, um, yeah. So he does find out, though, first, before we get to the Superman slash woman tie-in.
No, what I'm saying is in the comics,
No, no,
there
no.
was
I
the
understand what you're
the
saying.
only difference in the worlds
Yes, was that there was no
wasn't a
Superman,
Superman. There was still a Batman.
which is
There was
kind of
still a
important.
Cyborg. There was still
Yeah,
yeah,
which was not having Superman. Yeah, that's kind of important, but because he is stronger than everybody else put together at the end of the day. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, he goes and finds Batman because he's like, oh man, I need some backup for this fight to fight Zod. So like he goes and finds Batman, and of course it's the Michael Keaton Batman, and of course they have to you know be at odds for a bit before they get on the same page, just to build tension for some reason. Um, Kill some more time, I guess.
yeah. Spaghetti's an important.
Yeah, spaghetti to fucking explain the DC's version of the multiverse or parallel whatever. So, um, but yeah, so we go through all that, and
I wish my served me some spaghetti with bolognese sauce.
there you go. Well, we can't all be so lucky, I guess. Um,
Exactly. And then on top of that, I get to see the Batcave. What?
oh, the Keaton Batcave, that was
It,
really
kind-
cool.
it sounds day to me. Like I don't
Hmm.
what we should have called this movie is that movie Baby's Day Out. Like this should have been like the Flash's Day Out, or like
Basically,
you know how you know how
Flashy
Bueller's
Bueller,
Day Off. This should have been like the
Flashy
Flash's
Bueller's
Day
Day
Off.
Off.
Like
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
come on.
So, but yeah, no,
Barry Allen's Day Off and
I
shit.
will
Like
say
come on.
the Keaton Batman. It was really cool to see the Keaton Batman again, even like in the beginning, and
I wouldn't even care that the world was ending at that point. I'd just be like, well, I could die.
I could die a happy man now. I got to see Michael Keaton play Batman one more time.
I'll just drive the Batmobile until it existence failed to
Yeah, I
exist.
will drive the Batmobile into the horizon until the world is no
Yeah.
more.
Listening to Kansas talk about carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are and shit. Lay your
Absolutely.
head to rest. Don't
Don't
you
you
cry
cry
no
no
more. Trust.
more.
I'll be so happy in a
Yes.
Batmobile. I'll hit the thrusters at that point. Zzz.
Yeah, I know. I right there with you, man. Absolutely.
Fuck,
Um,
dude.
but yeah. So they go through all that, and then he figures out that there's fucking what he thinks is Superman, which turns out to be Supergirl. They have her in Russia somehow, captive. So he has to go. They have to
Which
go.
in the comics was Superman held in captivity by
Yes.
I'm not sure if I can't remember exactly to be honest with you, which is surprising to me that it was whether it was the Russians or not, but
Yeah.
was held in captivity and he was kept under a red ward, very similar to what they had in the movie with the girl.
Yeah. Of course.
Um, and meek, he didn't grow on a farm and grow strong and like grow radiate.
Of
So
course.
like when he got out, he just had like next to zero control of his powers, but like was
Right.
just
Right.
getting stronger and stronger and stronger. But go ahead.
Yeah. And they kind of,
Continue.
in a way, like they didn't.
Oh, and Cyborg was the one that released him,
Gotcha.
found him and got
Well, but
him
they
out.
can't. They can't
Yeah.
afford more actors. Stop. They blew their budget on Keaton, so they had and also they blew their budget on
Yeah.
Keaton
They
and
can only
also
afford to Google. They can only afford to Google the members of the Justice League.
exactly. Well, because between Keaton,
The-
you're right. Between Keaton and the technology or the special effects that it used to make it look like there were two Ezra Millers standing next to each other at all times, they had no other choice. But
he
yeah,
was
so
down
they had to
what?
yeah
Oh, college
they
playing.
could
Oh,
they couldn't even afford like somebody else who like had played Supergirl before, so they had to get
yeah.
I don't even know who the fuck the actress they got to play Supergirl was. I don't
It doesn't
recognize
matter
her.
because nothing they could do could save her, so it doesn't matter.
Well, we're gonna get there too. So yeah, so they bust her out, free her. She like is stubborn about joining them, but then joins them, of course. And basically, and then throughout the course of this, they decide, or he fucking gets his powers back by electrocuting himself over and over again, which is almost kind of sort of correct to the source material, as I think you've said, in a
Not
way.
even close, bro. Not even close.
What do you mean?
So in the comics, what happens
Uh-huh.
is Barry Allen presents. Oh, and another thing in
What's
the
that?
comics, remember when he had the ring and the suit would come out?
Yes.
in the comics, the Reverse Flash's suit came out.
Interesting.
Excuse me, right? Canadian Air.
It's all good.
Hmm.
So yeah, so you're saying that the
But the other thing
difference,
is about the contraption that the difference between how he got his power
getting his powers back,
was,
yes.
yeah, was he handed Thomas Wayne lines for um, the lightning rod to powers, and it had to happen on a certain time because
Right.
there's only so many strikes of lightning that we're gonna have.
Right.
So Thomas Wayne's like, "You're crazy," kind of the same way like Keaton was like, "You're crazy." They kind of got that right.
Yep.
And then first time it happens and the lightning strikes, it like burns him to like he is on the brink of death,
Disfigured.
and like Wayne's like, "You're gonna die and shit," and like he's like, "I don't care, keep going," and like Thomas Wayne's like, we can't," and then something actually happens to where like Swain has to like pull some clutch shit to get track that lightning bolt to the rod because it's the only one left, and
Yeah.
fucking it hits it and it hits some more, and then all of a sudden fucking
It
he
works.
resparks his fucking ability ignites. He starts to heal like Wolverine and shit. His skin starts to get back to normal,
Yeah.
and then
So it's so basically the moral of the story here, folks, is that you know how like in the hospital shows that like somebody's like gone and then they just keep zapping them at the damn thing like over and over with the paddle like over and over again. It actually does work apparently. You just keep doing it and it somehow works. Um, but yeah, it's
you
obviously
know
in
what's
the
messed up in our
what's
line
that?
of work with how many times we've been electrocuted. What the fuck,
Yeah,
bro?
why don't we have superpowers? What the fuck is this?
Straight up. I, you laugh at me because you know that every time I get electrocuted, I try to run.
Yeah. Yes, and unfortunately, it hasn't worked out for you yet.
Not yet, but you stood witness to
Maybe
this.
one day.
Ow.
Maybe one day.
Still not fast.
Still nothing. Still nothing. But yeah. So obviously, this scene massively different in the show because they needed to give Supergirl something to do, which is fine, you know. So she carries him up into the storm clouds and gets him zapped.
They
So
gave her something to
they
do.
did need to give her something to do because they put
All
her in this
right.
movie, so they needed to give her something to do before she apparently dies 100 million
But
times in a
that,
row.
yeah, yeah.
Her and Keaton die
Yeah,
a
like
hundred
yeah, they
million
gave her
times.
something to do, all right. They
Yeah,
gave her the treatment that they wanted to give Henry Cavill.
Cavill, but he was like, nah, bro. But anyway, so but yeah, so
Uh,
they yeah, so then after
they were like, "Hey Henry, come back." All the script. I'm good.
actually, I think what happened was they were like Henry was like, I want to come back, and they were like, no, and then he was like, let me come back, and then they were like, yes, and then he was like, okay, and then they were like, oh, never mind, no. I think that's what actually happened. But yeah. So then after he gets his powers back, then they all go for the final fight, and they have a little moment where obviously this was a small thing, but it was a mark out moment. I think when they're all of them like the two Barry Allens and Keaton's Batman and Supergirl are standing there, and Keaton gives you the old "you want to get crazy" line. That was a mark out moment for sure. I will say I did think
there were a few Easter eggs. I
and
feel.
yeah, and Keaton, you know, I had neglected to mention this when they were busting Supergirl out of the Russian prison, but Keaton got to kick some ass, which was cool. It was very cool. Obviously, you know, I like Batman, but not nearly as
Well,
much
you
as
didn't really elaborate on how like
well, I glossed over
Keaton
that, but
even got involved with like re taking up the mantle
I mean, glossed over it a little
because
bit, but I will
that's
say
pretty important.
yeah, I mean, I glossed over it a little bit, but I will say I was very cool. I just want to say the one thing I do want to say about it was very cool to see Keaton back in the old school bat suit, kicking some ass again, you know, and going through all
The
that
one
shit.
that doesn't turn like the neck doesn't turn.
Exactly.
So when
Yeah.
he was in the helicopter, when the Flash is in the helicopter, he's like, "Meh," and then
Yeah.
like
Because
his face looked all.
that was funny too. Yeah, because they fucking they
Uh,
did that. That
good
was what we're just
moments.
getting
Good
into.
moments.
Yeah,
Good.
when they're dive bombing to fight Zod. Yeah, and he makes his and young stupid Flash makes his own suit out of Batman's old suit somehow. So, but that was very funny. Yeah, he tries to turn his head and
Cuts the ears off and stuff with the hacksaw.
yeah, that no, that was funny. It's again, like I said, good humor.
And then after he cuts the neck part off. It's
Mhm.
hilarious.
Yes. So yeah, then they go to the final fight, obviously with Zod, and so everything seems like it's going okay, and then Michael Keaton dies, and they're like, ah, fuck, and then Supergirl dies, and they're like, ah, fuck, and then they realize like, oh man, we can like turn back time and prevent that from happening. So they go turn back time, and they evade dying that way. So they're like, okay, cool, but then they get to live like another minute and a half, and then they die again. And they're like, ah, fuck, they're both dead again. Like, what the fuck? So then we get to what we had alluded to earlier. I mean, obviously, it's good fighting and all that action. Like, we don't need to get into the details of the battle too much, but it's good fighting, good action, all that. Um, and they got the same guy to play Zod, which was nice. I guess he wasn't doing anything else. But yeah, so then we get to um, them, like, basically the thing that we had talked about, the Doctor Strange reference, the 14,605 different possible ways it could play out, and all of them except one end with us losing. you know
Yeah, essentially.
so that
But
all plays out.
it was his avatar. Anyone who's a
Yeah,
fan
right,
knows that in the comics, Savitar, there's two renditions of it.
right.
It's primarily known, the one that's accepted in the new arc is that he's a of Barry Allen, one that was supposed to be destroyed, one of many but wasn't, and he
Yes.
proclaims himself the god of speed, himself an armor that's fueled by Velocity X, and so
You've already given a
when
better
they kind
description of him
of
than the movie did.
like when they kind of had you know Ellen continuing to try to fix the moment of the super dying, like
Yeah.
constantly trying to fix it,
Yeah,
and it
so
kept causing him to mutate, and it turned out that like he was the cause of it the whole time. So like prior to running back in time had already done this because else would his time remnant have pushed been the one to push him out? You know what I
exactly.
mean? So
Yeah,
this
they
already
right, they do the yeah, so they when they keep like rewinding time, and like Batman and Supergirl keep dying in different ways, like normal Barry Allen real like comes to the realization like this isn't going to work, like there's no way around it. It doesn't matter what we do, they're going to die. Like this is like a nexus point or whatever they called it, I don't remember, where like there's no way out of it, like this is going to happen. But obviously young Barry Allen doesn't realize that or doesn't want to accept that or whatever, and just keeps going and going, and like you said, he gets like more like altered and like mutated like every time he does it, and then he eventually turns into the character that you just did a better job describing than the movie did. um so then there's like three
that
of then there's like
was the
three.
comic book explanation, bro.
Yes. So then there's three Ezra Millers on screen at the same time. But finally, and they do the big reveal like you said, which was not really a reveal because we all knew obviously it was like another timeline variant, different altered form of him that pushed him out of the Speed Force in the first place, which again kind of begs the question of like this endless that see this is where time travel gets like a little like what the fuck, because it's like you create these like endless loops of shit, and it's like it makes things a little more confusing if you think about it too much, because you're
It's
like,
almost like everyone does it differently depending on your budget.
well, yeah, it depends on your budget, but it also depends on it
I
also
wonder if
depends
it's
on
like
what
that in real
story you're
life.
trying to tell or what point you're. It depends on what goal you're trying to achieve. But speaking of that, actually, this is a minor thing, but I know a lot of people complained about the graphics that they like when they were in the Speed Force. A lot of people complained about the graphics they used to like showcase like all the people or the whatever. And honestly, I didn't mind. Like I thought the graphics were a little weird, but I kind of like didn't care that much. Like I didn't think it was a big deal, but a lot of people did.
I
You know what I
feel
mean?
like it's a petty thing to pick on,
Fair
because
enough.
the
Yeah, I
focal
agree.
point. I feel like the the discussion between the three
Of
about
course,
what was happening around them.
exactly.
You know,
And of course, you have like obviously you have like Savitar, who's like so
I
far.
just I
Yeah,
it's a bit of a shitty thing to pick on. You know,
I agree, I agree. But obviously, like in that moment, like you said, the important thing is what's going on between the three versions of him. So there's like the young, stupid version of him who's kind of like halfway in between. There's like the normal version of him that's like, we got to stop this, and then there's the Savitar version of him that's like, I just if I just do it one more time, I'm gonna get it right, and like over and over, like he's gone, like
yeah.
he's insane, he's gone. Um, so then they do something cool, which is they dig up a bunch of old footage from a bunch of DC property, and show us like kind of like universes colliding essentially, which is pretty cool because they've like fucked time up so bad. And by they I mean Ezra Miller, and all variants of Ezra Miller have fucked the universe up so bad that there's like universes colliding, and like you get to see a
That's
bunch of cool
uh,
old footage of like Christopher Reeve's Superman, and fucking like I don't even remember his name, the guy who was like the first Batman back in like the 1930s or something. Um,
uh, George. It was like George Lewis, I think, or
yeah,
some shit like
yeah,
that.
something like that. Yeah. So yeah, and then some cool footage from other things, including something that none of us I think knew existed, which was the Nicholas
Get
tabled
Adam West.
tabled Nicholas Cage super. I don't think they had Adam West, did they? I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think there was Adam West, unless I've like zoned
there
out for that.
was.
Was there?
There was.
Okay.
There was.
Because
Yeah.
I must have zoned out for that because I was like, I remember thinking back on it and I was like, they should have had Adam West, but if they did, then good. I guess I'm just an idiot. Good for them.
No, yeah, no, there definitely was Adam
I gotta pay
West.
more attention. Anyway,
But
so
you're getting ready to hit a very funny point here.
yes, the funny
Ready
point is
for it.
the they included footage from a tabled Nicolas Cage Superman movie that apparently didn't or was
Bro,
produced that
I'm
no
a
one knew
comic
about.
book purist. I'm a DC nut.
Yep.
I saw this and I was like, what did Nicolas Cage ever play Superman?
Yeah, I was
And
like, this is
of course,
fucking nuts.
of course, your lady had to be like, "Ba-doop, doo-doo-doo,"
Google it.
right here,
Fact
and I was
check.
like, no fucking way,
Yeah,
no fucking way.
I think she said I don't
So, dude, it looked ridiculous.
I got
It
well.
looked like Jesus wearing a Superman medal and glossy, like it was like the Green Lantern version of Superman.
So I will tell you. Okay, so I will tell you. I think she said I don't exactly remember. I think she said it was tabled and it was never released. It was either tabled and never released, or it like went straight to like DVD and nobody bought it.
Well,
One or the other.
it just was for absolutely no reason.
Yeah, so I will tell you two things. One, I think it's super duper random and weird to include footage from that in this. So the fact that they would include that in this is super random and weird. The second thing I will say is like I am a pretty big Nicolas Cage fan. I think he's a great actor. Having said that, he looked absolutely
Green Lantern
wrong.
version of
He
Superman.
absolutely looked awful and wrong as Superman. Him as Superman is just looked so weird and wrong and stupid. Like I can't even begin to like. I'm so glad that movie like was never a thing. Like whoever thought like. And again, I'm a fan of Nicolas Cage, but like that is not the role for him. Like not in
If it
the
was that or
least.
Con Air, thank God he picked Con Air.
Yes, exactly. Um, but yeah, so then we get like the big climax, and then what is it? Fucking uh, Savitar like goes to kill normal Barry Allen, but then young stupid Barry Allen jumps in the way and takes the bullet or takes the spear and gets killed, and that erases Savitar. So then they're all gone, and it's just back to being one Ezra Miller on screen. Um,
So
and
it undoes everything that happened.
that somehow, yes, that magically somehow undoes everything and gives him a chance. Which again, I question the how realistic that is, but at the same time, we're talking about time traveling superhero movie, so realism is suspension of disbelief and all that. But yeah, so then it gives him an opportunity to go back and undo his mistake of trying to save his mom. And I thought, I have to say, I thought this was a really good, really well done scene. It really was like how he has to, gets to, and he even gets to like talk with his mom, even though again, like you're pushing the butterfly effect kind of thing. Although I guess you can defend this with the logic of like, well, if she dies like 15 minutes after he has this conversation with her, it's going to be like it's a guarantee that it's going to be inconsequential. So like you know what I mean?
See,
Because like obviously there's
that's
the argument to be made of like, oh well,
too,
he's
bro. That that's the other thing too that like I was trying to touch upon
yeah,
is that she dies when he's even in the movie in the beginning, right?
right,
But back in time and puts the tomatoes in and then runs out and she lives. He's 18 years old, but then when they go back in time, shit, that part kind of gets that's why that I feel like that was the poor part of the writing in the movie. Why if they stuck more to the source material it would have been better because
yeah,
this is what doesn't that's the part that doesn't make sense to me is that they keep going right to change the outcome of one thing.
right,
But outcome of one thing, which they did express when all the worlds were colliding,
hmm,
changing other things, but in changing those other didn't change any of them three at all, except for continuing to one to become, encased in what it was encased in and scarred, you know, Savitar,
sure,
and so the point of what I'm saying is that they didn't really do the time low enough, and I feel like this movie could have. I feel like for what they did with it, movie I loved it, but I
yeah.
feel like it still could have
Could have been
been
closer
something
to the source
so much
material, and it
bigger.
would have made more sense.
It would have been so much bigger. They
Yeah, I
would
can I
have
can
had,
understand that, but what I'm saying as far as this scene goes with him kind of like with him and his mom. So like I'm not saying it's a great scene because of like it's accurate or anything like that because I know it's not, but I'm saying it's a great scene like in the context of the movie because it's really like it's a him letting go and him realizing that there's some things he can't change and like him making essentially the ultimate sacrifice, which is like, well, like I have to let my mom go. It's just the one thing that I want more than anything is just for my mom to be alive. But if she lives, then like I fuck the timeline and the universe up. So like I can't do
no,
it.
but
You know?
that I'm saying the reason why I'm saying that I don't feel this scene is relevant is because the Barry that died
Mm-hmm.
was the Barry that was of that.
Timeline. Yeah.
Then how would done everything to where he could have just
Well,
did
again,
what he
that's
did.
that's like the inconsistency problems. And again, like I know I've said this before, but this is kind of a little sidebar. But I really do like I kind of don't like time travel when it comes to movies and shows. And here's why: is because well, for one reason, it kind of like feels like it removes a lot of the stakes and makes things not mean as much if there's if there's a bunch of different universes where different things happen and like there's you can rewind time and change it anyway if it doesn't work out. Like so I'm but also like not only that, but to me it creates a lot of
But it's like that Barry dying
right.
did nothing. Was my
Right,
point.
exactly. And the
That was the Barry of
inconsistency
that time.
exactly, and
Yeah.
the inconsistency of when time travel storylines are done, like it feels like it's almost inevitable that there are going to be these inconsistencies in like time travel storylines and shows and movies and I don't like inconsistency, but it just kind of is what it is. But yeah, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So from that perspective, yes, but like I said, in the context of the movie, like it it was a great scene, I think, because in my mind it was a great scene because of the impact of what it has, like within the context of the movie. Like not that it makes full sense of like, you said that young stupid Barry died and it didn't matter, or like, the timelines were fucked up and
Well,
then all of
dude,
us yeah.
she legitimately looked like an older version of her, and
Yeah.
it would have been different if like his disguise didn't come off, but like
Yeah,
say
it
she
wasn't
puts
much of a
her hand on
disguise,
his
but
face, like yeah. But
yeah.
either way, the sunglasses and the hat,
The
like
vintage, the
something.
vintage comic relief disguise, the hat and the sunglasses, um, but
Yeah,
no.
but still
So
something, you know.
right, so but yeah, so he does that, and then he gets it, and then he goes back to the present, and you think everything's back to normal. Obviously, it looks like everything's back to normal, and his dad has his day in court where he's trying to prove that he didn't kill his mom. But here's the thing then, because like you think like when he puts the can back or whatever, and like he lets he accepts his mom's fate and all that, you think like, oh, he grew as a person, and like he learned his lesson, and like he accepts the way things are and all that kind of stuff. But no, then you come to find that like, oh, he just changed something else. It's like he moved the can from one shelf to another, so his dad looks at the security camera so they can prove it's not him, and he gets out of jail, which is okay. So like I have two ways to think of this. The generous interpretation of this scene and this plot point at the end is okay. Well, because he's back in the present now, like it's not going to fuck anything up because like what's done is done, and like he was trying to affect the past when now he's just did something that didn't affect anything except the present. But at the same time, it could also be hypocritical and lazy writing to say like, okay, like what's the difference between like who's to say that like him moving that can to a different shelf like would fucking like wouldn't fuck the universe, you know what I mean? Like if his mom who's like
How tall is his dad though, bro? Because
I don't know about that. I don't know either.
like the security camera looked like it was pretty high up. So like,
uh,
who like straight up like to get something off the top
I
shelf?
don't
Like, I
know.
mean,
That's
I know I'm
you're
6'5",
nitpicking, but
but
you're
like
right. But you're right.
like
um
who does who all of a sudden is like and looks up?
I don't know, dude. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make any sense. But that pales in comparison to the not making sense of like, wait a second, like you just fucked the entire like multiverse up by doing something, and then you're just gonna fucking do it again. Like, granted, maybe to a lesser degree, because like you can argue, oh, moving a can from one spot to another isn't the same as like whether a person lives or dies. That's obviously more consequential. I get that, but like it's still the same principle of like, did you not learn anything? You know what I mean? Like you can't fucking change shit, and as we're gonna see in 1 second, changing the position of that can had dire consequences on this reality. Dire consequences on this reality, the likes of which we could have never possibly imagined. And you know what I'm talking
I
about.
don't.
You know what I'm talking about.
Listen,
It is time
this
to
is where the
address.
podcast ends.
It's time
This
to
is where the
address.
podcast ends, guys. It was a good movie. Just don't watch it. Don't watch. It ends at this time.
It ends with him. It ends with him getting a date with that chick he's
It
trying to
ends
nail.
with his dad getting exonerated,
End,
and then
end,
that's it.
end, end. It ends with
That's
A,
it.
his dad getting
Nope.
exonerated. No,
Nope.
no, no. You're gonna
That's
like
it.
this. You're gonna like this. It ends with A, his dad getting exonerated, and then B, him getting a date with that chick he was trying to nail. That was it. There was nothing else that happened after
And
that.
then Iris,
Yes, her.
and then the movie ends.
Yep. And there's definitely
Ends.
not.
Then
There's
yep.
definitely he definitely does
Nope.
not
Nope.
get a
Nope.
phone call.
Definitely nope.
He does
Nope.
definitely
Nope.
does not get a
Uh.
phone call from
Nope.
Batman
Mm.
saying, "I'm pulling up to the curb
Nope.
right now. Hold on,
What?
I'm going to come talk to you," and and then a
Definitely.
car pulls up to the curb.
Nope.
This definitely didn't
Mm-mm.
happen, by the way. Definitely didn't happen. Wink, nudge.
Certainly. No.
Um, and then the
Disclaimer.
car opens. The door opens.
This is all a
The
lie.
door opens, and who walks out to confront Barry? Who walks out?
So it's just
None other.
not the guy that was on the phone.
Not Ben
Like
Affleck. What happened to him? We don't
not
know.
that.
Is he
No.
gone forever? We
No.
don't
I
know.
don't like.
But we do know
I don't know what
that
happened.
a man,
I don't even know what movie you're talking
a
about
man
anymore.
none other than
We
Mister,
already said the movie ended after he dated Iris.
Mister George Clooney
Nope.
walks out.
Nope. Nope. No.
And he's like, "What are you
He should
doing,
have.
Barry? Stop playing, stop goofing around. We got work to do. Let's go." So
He should
enjoy
have.
your can of tomatoes, Ezra Miller, because you moving that can of tomatoes might have got your dad out of jail, but it also turned Ben Affleck into George Clooney. So there you
Dude,
go.
if we give his, will we get Keaton back?
If we do what? Put his dad back in jail? Would we get Keaton back? I don't know.
No, I said if somehow his dad gets the death sentence, could we
Just
get Keaton back?
maybe, but I don't know if he's willing to make that trade. So, and that's kind of where the movie ends. Um, now I have two theories, or I have a couple different theories about why George Clooney's Batman returned. Because we all know, and if we don't know, let's do a quick refresher. So George Clooney has once before.
We really don't need to elaborate nor
We're not
focus
going to
on
elaborate.
this
We're just
one.
going to do a real quick. So George Clooney, for those of you who do not know, did play Batman one time in one movie back in 97, 98, somewhere in that
Mm.
vicinity. In Batman and Robin, yes, the best bat suit ever created with the hard ass nipples on it. Um, Widely regarded as the worst Batman live action actor by all, including us, because as you may recall, we did do a Batman actor power ranking quite some time ago. Actually, the last
He's
time
him
you were on here,
Leto. He's the Leto of Batman.
he's
Come
the
on,
Jared Leto
He's-
of Batman actors. Yes, and the
come on.
ironic thing is, I think George Clooney is a great actor. I really do, um, and I think most people do. But
Um,
he did
I don't.
not
He,
do
he
well.
he plays the same guy.
But he did not play Batman well at all, obviously. So I have a couple different theories for why this happened. Um, Theory number one is that the people who were writing and producing this movie were like, you know what, we have the Affleck, which is the current Batman, right? We already said we are getting Keaton back, who's widely regarded as the best Batman, right? So now we have to balance that out. We have to balance it out by getting who is widely regarded as the worst Batman actor back to
It would have
balance.
been awesome. It would have been awesome if like comes out the limo, right? And
uh,
then like Reverse Flash comes out of nowhere and like just like
just like
phases
knifes
his
Clooney and
fucking
he's dead.
phases phases like arm through Clooney's chest and then just grabs his heart and like squeezes it and then like phases his out of Clooney's body and then Clooney just like falls in front of Barry.
And
Barry's
Barry's
like,
just like, who
"Oh
is that
no,
guy?
I have to." Barry's like, "Oh no, I have to fix this," and
uh,
then like runs back in time, and
yeah.
then
Well,
comes back,
I
and
actually
and
thought.
it's any but Clooney.
See, I actually thought that. So there's that possibility. My other possibility that I had thought of for why it was Clooney at the end of this movie was that, speaking of that Captain's Table episode that I had just talked about, where we ranked all the Batman actors, this is the other explanation I have, and that is that George Clooney himself is actually a fan of Captain B-Nard and the Captain's Table podcasts, and he, in fact, was one of the 25 people that listened to that podcast. And he was like, you know
Fuck
what?
you, George Clooney.
And he was like, you know what? Fuck these assholes. I'm gonna show them I'm
Fuck
not the
you,
worst
George
Batman,
Clooney.
and I'm gonna come back.
Don't
And if that's the case, then I say, well played,
if you
sir. My hat is off to you.
leave a comment, George Clooney. I dare you. I
If
dare you.
that's the case, you know what? You got me. I give it to you. You got me. You did it, and I give you all the credit in the world, and you got it.
Pull
But
them bat balls out of the utility belt and show.
but
Put your nipples
yeah.
away, bro. Let's do
So
this.
obviously this raises like a whole slew of questions with going forward in the future and everything. Like, is this permanent? Was it just a joke? Like, is he gonna just be Batman in like this version of the universe from this point forward? Are we gonna never see Affleck's Batman again? Are we never gonna see, like, is it all just gonna be gone? Like, we don't know. Um, I did, and then obviously, so all these unanswered questions, obviously, and then we get the post-credit scene of drunken Jason Momoa, which was funny, face down in a puddle. Which based on how well he did that, I have a feeling he's had that happen in real life many, many times. So
This is where I live and shit.
yes,
That was
I have a
great.
feeling Jason Momoa has been face down on the street, drunk, probably many a time in real life. That was that
Well, I
just
mean,
looked too
dude,
natural for him.
if not, you ain't living right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So overall, I know I kind of said this before. So overall reaction, My overall reaction is very positive to this. Actually, I think, and you might be surprised to hear this, but I think that this might be my favorite DCEU movie to date. Not that there's like a lot of stiff competition for that title, but even though this movie did have its problems, it did have its inconsistencies. It was still a really fun ride from beginning to end. It more or less made enough sense, like the like I don't think it was anything about it was like super duper egregious as far as that, following the logic. Um like I said before, I think it did a good job infusing the humor. It did. I actually, and again, I am no big Ezra Miller fan by any stretch of the imagination. Even before all the crap came out about him, I was not a fan of his really. But I will say I think he actually did a very good job in acting in this. Obviously, having Keaton return was great. Um, and so yeah, I mean overall I think it was really solid. It was really good. Um, and I think I said this before, but I'll say it again, and that is I think that if DC can keep doing this or stuff like this with their movies in the future, I think they would actually be in good shape. If they kept doing movies like the way that they did this one, I know it's not always going to be possible, and obviously, like the enhanced star power of like Keaton returning and all that really helped this. Helped interest, I would say. Um, but at the end of the day, like I said, I think if like putting aside all of that, if they can follow the formula essentially that they used and the balances that they used of action, comedy, seriousness, storytelling, like if they can do that again, I think they'll be in good shape. You know, and I think that the last thing I will say is I think it is a shame. It really is a shame in my mind that this movie is tanking the box office so bad. Because it definitely, like, just from a merit based perspective, it definitely doesn't deserve the shitty box office and the shitty reaction from some that it's gotten, I think. And it's a shame, I think, that just because they unfortunately chose somebody who's like a weirdo, creepy delinquent felon um, to play the Flash. That unfortunately the what would otherwise be a very very good movie is definitely getting hammered a lot harder than it should. Um, but
I want to say that
yeah, go
I
ahead.
feel like um, I want to say that I feel like the movie itself.
Yeah,
You're gonna laugh when I say this, Bernard.
yeah,
The movie more before this podcast
yeah,
because now that I've like broken cheeked it and have had my thoughts that I
yeah,
haven't voiced,
yeah.
I kind of feel like I mean
You're not as
I
enthralled
feel
with
like
it.
DC. Yeah, I feel like DC community here and just kind of like they kind of fumble again in my opinion because you know like you said even the main star of this movie, I mean, are we planning on seeing him anywhere in the future?
I don't know. That's a good
You,
question.
you know, you know,
Very good question.
with that being said, but like in the other critiques we've made
Yeah.
and with George Clooney being involved.
You know what I have to say, going back to the Clooney thing, I have to say that so like when I first saw it, I hated it. I was like, man, this is stupid. Of all
I
the fucking people, of literally all the people they could have had to make a cameo at the end of this movie, like I would what I really would have loved, and I know I said this to you, but I have to say this on tape. What I would have loved more than
Bro,
anything in this moment is
we
a
went
fucking
into the theater.
yes. He walks out. At the end of the movie, it walks out, and it's not Clooney that comes out, but it's fucking Christian Bale who walks out, and the Flash is like, "Oh, I was just talking to this girl and shit," and he goes like, "Where is she?" like that would have
Bro,
been the absolute greatest. And I know Christian Bale is not nearly he's not nearly lighthearted enough about the role to come back for something fun like that. Um, but no, but
bro,
in
what
hating the
did I
Clooney,
say when we were at the
listen,
movie?
hating the Clooney,
What did I say when we were at the movie, bro?
yeah.
Because I don't see George Clooney this whole movie.
Yes, you were, and then like here's the funny thing, and you're gonna hate me for saying this, but it's true. So like I was like, when I looked at the screen and saw Clooney, I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!" I got mad, and I was like, "This is so stupid." Of all the people, why is it him? And then I looked over at you, and I saw the look of sheer disappointment on your face, and that actually cheered me up. And I was like, "Man, he's so disappointed that Clooney's here, even more so than me. This is funny as fuck."
You're a
So,
dick.
yes, I am,
Uh,
but that's okay.
uh,
Um, but
it was in cinema history.
yes. So, but you know what? I
But
do think that's interesting.
I think we should. Oh, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to say I think we should do something different.
What do you mean?
Guess this time. I think the way that we should maybe go out with this one is give, let's say, a scale of 1 to 10. Um,
Yeah, I mean, you can. I want to before we end it, we can scale of 1 to 10 the movie. And then there is one other thing I want to talk about briefly before we cut out. So yeah, I will say I'm a little surprised that it seems like I like this movie more than you. That kind of surprises me. And I do get your criticisms, and I get you're probably more critical of it not being source material accurate than me. Even though I do agree with you, I think it would have been better if it was more source material accurate, but I think it was still like a lot of the things they changed. I can understand why they did it for fitting it in a 2.5 hour movie. Um, but yeah, if you want to go ahead and rate this on a scale, what do you think in number scale wise?
oh, what, on a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
Uh, I give it a 6.
Wow, that's shocking. I would probably give it an 8, to be honest with you. I would give it maybe
Well, there you go, folks. It's 6 and an 8.
yeah. So average that out, and you get like a 7. So, so there you go. Um, but yeah, the last thing like I said, I think it's definitely worth the watch personally. Like I would say it's worth the watch. Definitely. I don't feel like I wasted my money going to theaters to watch it. So I hope you don't feel that badly
I
about
don't
it.
feel that way either.
That's good.
I do feel like I enjoy it. Now that I've scaled it, I
Yeah.
feel like when I compare it to what it could have been,
Yeah.
me personally, because you got to remember, like, my rating comes more from your true comic book purist.
Hmm.
Your rating comes more from like someone who enjoys a good story,
Yeah.
with a good hero and like a good arc, and
Right.
it's not necessarily your specific genre of hero,
I'm more of a when it comes to the DC
or
stuff. I'm definitely a little more of
because
a
you're more of a
casual
Marvel
fan.
fan.
Yeah. But fair enough. But yeah, I
Exactly.
think that's
So
I
like
can understand where you're coming from. You understand where I'm coming from. So I think that's
I'm not saying don't go see it. I'm saying it's a really, it is a good movie for what it is. And I do feel like it's going to help the DC potentially fix some of the bullshit that's gone on, but I'm trying to figure out how, if that makes sense.
it does. So speaking of fixing the DCU, that's the last thing I want to talk about, which is what we can expect from DC moving forward after this. Um, So in the immediate future, what we're looking at, there are, I believe, five movies that DC has on the docket coming up within the next couple of years. And I did research this for once. I did my research. Um, so the next movie that they have coming out is going to be Blue Beetle, actually, which is coming out in just actually less than 2 months. It's coming out in August of this year, and I have to say two things. One, I know absolutely nothing about Blue Beetle as a character or a story or anything. I know nothing about it whatsoever.
You don't
Um,
know about the Scarab.
what's that?
the blue scarab that attaches himself to the protagonist that plays. I don't
Uh,
want to give too much away early on.
gotcha. Fair enough. Yeah, we can talk more about that later. But yeah,
But I'll tell you, he is Spanish.
there you go. Square one for you. Um, but yes. But yeah, no, that's. I also, the other thing I want to say about this is I feel like this has been incredibly poorly marketed because, like, I don't think I've heard a damn thing about this, and it's coming out in like less than 2 months, and I haven't seen like a trailer, I haven't seen a commercial, like, I haven't seen jack shit about this thing. So, like, I don't
Man,
understand why the advertising for this is so bad, apparently. But like I've talked to some people and they're like, oh yeah, I saw the, I saw a commercial for it or whatever. But like I haven't seen shit from it, so I don't know. But
they've given up. They've given up, bro.
apparently, but only temporarily, because so then the next project we have after that is Aquaman 2, which is coming out in December of this year. So obviously we all know what that is. Jason Momoa. I heard that I don't think they replaced Amber Heard as Mira, but I think they massively edited the movie to make her have like as little screen time as possible after the whole her in depth thing, obviously. Um, so yeah, that's gonna be. I haven't seen too much from that because obviously it's we're like 5 6 months out from that. I guess more like five, but 5.5. Split the difference, um, but yeah, so there's that. Which I think I don't know. It'll probably be fine, but like, meh. I thought the first Aquaman was fine enough. I've never been a huge Aquaman fan. Um, but I know you were a big fan of the first Aquaman, so I'm sure you'll be looking forward.
Yeah, it was pretty good, but
Yeah.
sometimes unfortunately, sometimes in the DC world, when they come out with the second movie, it's just like,
Oh, like Wonder Woman
I,
84. Yeah. Well,
yeah, I mean, we don't need to go there, but yeah,
no,
for
but we'll see.
sure.
We'll see what happens with it. So there's that. So after that, there's actually nothing from December of this year. There's actually nothing all the way until October of 2024, and that's when we get our confirmed Joaquin Phoenix Joker sequel, um, Folly Ado, I guess it's called.
That's not even really a part of like the DC universe,
It's
though,
supposed
as
to be,
far as
yeah.
I
So
understand.
this is a weird one because it's not part of like the. So they have what's called the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe, which is supposed to be like all the Justice League adjacent stuff, or related stuff. So obviously all the Aquamans, the Affleck Batman, the Ezra Miller Flash, the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, the fucking Cyborg,
Yeah,
all
we
that
get it,
stuff.
we get it.
Yeah, that's all the DC EU, and then I guess technically by default the fucking Suicide Squad shit is all part of that too. Peacemaker and all that's all in the DC EU, but then there's like this weird like side universe that's like the Phoenix Joker and like the Pattinson Batman and like is like a separate side universe, I guess. Although, yeah, it has to be because they showed fucking a different Joker in the Pattinson Batman. So yeah, so there's like multiple like adjacent. It's kind of like basically it's like the Venom verse, like what Marvel's
It's
Venom
like a
verse is.
multiverse.
Yeah, it's like what Marvel's Venom verse is because like Venom's not like.
It's like spaghetti, bro.
Yeah, apparently, yes, yes. Keep going back to the spaghetti. But yeah, so there's that, and it's supposed to be like some kind of a musical too, I think. So I don't know what the fuck's going on with that. It seems weird as fuck, but anyway, yeah, that's that Joker sequel, and then after that, we don't have anything else all the way until that's October of 24 that we have that Joker sequel, and then we have nothing from then all the way until July of 2025 is the next thing we have, which is actually going to be Superman Legacy. So that is going to be the official Superman reboot, where they actually, I don't know if you saw this or heard this, but they just announced, like within the last week, I want to say it is, maybe two, the
Hmm.
new actor that is playing Superman. Did you see this or no?
Oh, did they know? Who is this?
It's I've never heard of this guy before. It's like Daniel Cornsweet or something like that. I think I've never heard of this guy before, but I did look him up actually, and he does actually look the part. I will give him that. I don't know anything else about him, but he definitely does look the part of like a younger like Clark Kent slash Superman. So they think they got a win with that. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah,
Tom Welling. Tom
that's
Welling.
no, I like Tom Welling too. Don't get me wrong, but he's gotten old now. But so it's not going to be him. But
Smallville
yes,
forever.
Smallville was a great show for the first most of the seasons. The last few I think lost it, but for most of its run it was great. But yeah,
10
so
seasons to watch Superman fly.
yes, and so but yeah, that's July of 2025. That's like a full 2 years from now, and supposedly that is supposed to be the official reboot of the DCU of the movie universe. Is that movie is supposed to be like the beginning of the new. So who is going to get carried over? Is anybody going to get carried over? Is everybody going to get recast? Like we don't know. It's all very up in the air at this point. Um, but we do know that they've said that Superman Legacy movie is supposed to be the official reset of everything, and that's going to be the start of the James Gunn DCU, I guess apparently, where him and some other guy are going to have like almost total creative control of DC movies. Um, so yeah, so that's coming, and then the last one is in October actually of 2025, and that is something that you might be looking forward to, which is Batman Part Two, so a Robert Pattinson Batman sequel. So that is in July
I
of
feel like
or
at this point, I'm not looking forward to too much,
You're
to
losing
be
faith.
quite
No,
honest
you
with you.
can't lose faith, man. You can't do it. You got to keep the faith alive.
Uh,
Um,
uh,
I know it's hard sometimes. I get it. Like trust me. I mean, Marvel. You know how big of a Marvel guy I am, and the last year has had
there's
Marvel.
too much. There's too much kryptonite. There's too much kryptonite.
I don't know, man. Like I said, honestly, I am kind of surprised that you're more negative after this Flash movie than me, because I'm actually more positive about DC's future at this point than I mean, I'm not going to say I'm more optimistic, but I will say I am right now after watching the Flash movie.
Bro, bro,
I Let me just say
is
this.
this? Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you ready? All I'm gonna say is this: George.
It's really yes. It's not. You know what? Clooney sucked as Batman. Having him in this movie made it worse. I agree with you
No.
100%. Having said that, I don't think
Done.
it's not the end of the
Done.
world.
How do you fix it with
It is
that? You
not
don't.
the
You
end of
don't
the
think.
world.
Come
It's
on.
not the end of the world.
You
It's
don't mistake with compiling another mistake on top of it. That's like, oh my God, I've stabbed myself. What do I do to fix it? Take another stab the exact same spot.
look, man. Like I said, I get how you're feeling, but at the same time, like I said, I think at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. And who knows if he's even going to come back as Batman again? Like, who knows if anybody's coming back? Like,
If
we
his
don't
bat
know.
suit doesn't have nipples and isn't colored, then I don't want to watch it.
Fair enough. That's hopefully we can. Yeah. So Clooney again, if you're watching this, if you're gonna play Batman again, we require that the Batsuit has nipples again. We need consistency. That's again. We're gonna bring this full circle because that's all the DC fans want is consistency. They want stability, and so the only thing that can bring us that consistency and that stability is, you guessed it, the Batsuit with nipples. So make it happen.
Yeah, bro, pull up, pull up.
But no, I will say,
I got something to say to you. Pull up.
what?
I was talking to George Clooney.
Oh, fair enough. Um, so the last thing I want to say is, I will say I am actually right now, after having watched the Flash movie, I'm actually more interested about the future of the DCU than I have been in quite a long time, to be completely honest with you. Like, I am more interested in what they're going to do and where they're going to go from here now than I have been at any point since the Batman Nolan trilogy ended, which is saying something for me, I would say. So I'm not going to say I'm optimistic. I'm not going to say I'm like like super happy, but I'm more interested to see where it goes now than I have been in over a decade for sure. So, but that's pretty much all we can do at this point is just kind of see where it goes. I mean, I understand your pessimism, I do, because over the last decade, if the DC movies have done anything, it's to to make you feel foolish for being optimistic about them. That's for sure. but but you know what? I mean, maybe once James Gunn gets total control of everything, I mean, we know he does really good work. So I mean, he could potentially turn it around, make it stable. Who knows? But I guess we'll just have to wait and see at this point. But yeah, I think
Sure.
that'll pretty much do it for me. You have anything else you want to add, or ready to sign off?
Oh no, I feel like we've covered all the bases,
That's what we do. All right,
all the
so
cues.
yes, indeed. So yeah, that'll do it for this one for us. So thanks for watching again, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed. Please hit that like button, share the video, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. If you did enjoy, especially if you're George Clooney, comment so we know.
Hmm.
Um, yes, and stay tuned for more new videos in the future. I would like to
Pull up
thank.
in the bro.
Yes, find where we live and pull up in the fucking sports car right outside, just
Pull
like
up where he lives, bro. In them
yes.
comments.
Yes. But yeah, I would like to thank my guest, Mitchelonius, for joining me to discuss the Flash movie and all things DC. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No problem, man. Anytime. So, but yeah, that is it. And we'll see you next time.